Bible prayer la on shame my
GOC. General Officer.
Cyril, you don't have to lock your neck.
I've been doing this for the past 3 editions.
Although I know it's under pressure, but then
pressure. So I want to tell you, manifest pressure.
Differ.
I want to tell you, manifest pressure.
No, he's talking.
Yeah, they very. I just want to talk about saying. I want to lose humanity.
His mic is not working.
His mic is not working.
They can't get.
Put on this thing now. Put on the.
It's from there. He's been talking since now. It's not working. Please reduce what that thing you are doing. Said you should check it now. Check it now.
Check it. Is it working?
Hello?
Is it working or we just start?
We used. It's working. It's working.
Is he saying it's working?
Well, you can hear from here.
Cyril
Hello.
says-
Yep. Hello.
It's good to have you join us on the last episode of TVC Nigeria's premium show, Journalist Hangout for the year 2015. I am Veronica Onuchi. I'd like to invite you to the special edition of Journalist Hangout on Friday, that's 1st of January 2016 at 4 p.m. It's live recording as we review the year 2015 and set agenda for 2016. Call our producers on 080-354-37765 and 070-43554-356 to book a seat. Our studio is located at 1 Continental Way, CMD Road, Ketu, Lagos State. Now, after several attempts to get the #1 seat of Taraba State through legal action, Senator Aisha Al-Hassan has lost out at the appeal court. Well, now, President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday, December 30th, 2015, had his first media chat since assuming office with many issues raised. On the Hangout today, we shall analyze the key ones. So if you're ready, let the Hangout start now. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari held his first media chat at the presidential villa last night, tackling issues varying from corruption, economy and security. The chat has generated mixed reactions from different quarters, with commendations and criticisms greeting it. How would you rate President Buhari's performance? Do you think the media chat lived up to expectation considering the issues raised? Now I have in the studio my guests. I'll start with my immediate left, Babajide Utitoju, our regular on the show.
Good evening, viewers. It's my pleasure to be on the show once again.
Cyril Abako. I hope I got your name right.
Of course you did. Thank you very much. And to be here on the last day of the year.
It's quite interesting
Yeah,
and
sure it
exciting.
is.
Majid Jamiu, many thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, good evening, Veronica, and good evening to our viewers at home.
I'm sure you all watched the presidential media chat yesterday, so I'd like to get a feel of what you make of the presidential media chat. Did it live up to your expectations? And did you really get what you expected? I'll start with you, Majid.
As a journalist, I think I'll score the president 50%, and rather the interviewers or the panelists didn't make a good job of throwing the jibes at the president by asking him the real questions. They were doing more of the talking. They keep dragging the brain. After 30 minutes, they made it very boring. The president tried his best. He was able to dodge a lot of questions, and I expect them to pull him back, but then they were just treating him as a president and not, as somebody who is on the hot seat. They should have put him on the hot seat there. If you ask a question and somebody tries to dodge it, then you cut in, and even if it's even the president of America, who is supposed to be the most powerful president in the world. If they ask him a particular question, except he says, no, I won't answer that question, or that they should allow it to pass. But then questions that borders on certain issues, like especially the relationship between the Amin and the Shiite Muslims, he tried to dodge it. Then things that bordered on the economy, like somebody was saying he could not use his ATM card. It's neither a funded ATM card to withdraw just £200 in London. The question, the president dodged that. He said he would throw it to the CBN governor. And the person who said he had $2,000 in his domiciliary account, he said he wanted to withdraw from his account. And the president dodged those questions. And specifically, what he would do with some of his ministers who are perceived to be corrupt. He only said none of them had any case in court and stuff like that. He just scratched those ones on the surface. And Nigerians want to actually know if you are going to, because as it is, it's as if it's only the opposition that is being put on trial in terms of corruption.
All right, let me quickly move to Cyril. Cyril, yes, we're in the office together, so tell me what you...
If you ask me quite frankly, Veronica, I think that a president is expected to sound presidential. He is groomed to sound as straight as possible. And true to what I think that played out yesterday, the fundamental duty of journalism, as prescribed by the Constitution in Section 22, if I'm correct, is basically to hold power to account. Even if many times the ways and means by which we do that are nebulous and nondescript, having an opportunity to go head-to-head with the president should have really given Nigerians a feeler, a clear and direct access to knowing the president's mind. But yesterday, of course, some good questions were raised, but where I had issues with the chat was, like Mujid said, was when the buck was being passed from where I should be stopping. What made Harry Truman famous in the US was his statement of "the buck stops at my table." That was his signature statement. But I was a bit disappointed hearing him say that he was waiting for a report from the chat. I for one, am aware that the chat is not a constitutional matter. There's no place where it is statutorily written that there must be a chat. So I think that as president, it behoved him to say, look, we will need to hold this chat at a time when Nigerians can have concrete answers to issues. If the police and the DSS are still relied upon to investigate what happened with the Shiite attacks and all of that, that the president never once issued a statement on the issue, and we are being told that they were waiting for investigations to be concluded. When it came to the matter of the economy, he said the finance minister and the CBN governor, we expected him to be, to tell us those things that he was asking us to hold on to. So, but by and large, I'm glad that at least it has begun. That for once we have the president sitting down with people who, with journalists, to be able to articulate his policy positions and to give answers to burning issues that bother on the common man in Nigeria. I hope that as we go on and as other media chats, will continue to hold, we will get a better outing. And that won't come because the president is there to answer questions. It will come because people are there to ask him the salient issues and to, as much as possible, yes, to squeeze the juice out of him. That's
all right. Now,
Majid
gave his rating as 50%. If you had to rate it, what's your rating?
It's faltering really, maybe between 45 and 50. 45
and 50. All right, now we'll come to Babajide. Now, let's have your take on the media chart.
Well, I think that the panelists asked some very good questions. Knowing the president, know him very well, I know he would never answer some questions. I also know that certain questions he is not technically competent to provide solid answers, especially questions that have to do with the economy, except we are deceiving ourselves, and it's not in my character to deceive myself. So naturally, those were the questions that he found convenient to parry. And where you ask the president a question, because we are Nigerians, we know the limitations of our president. What our president brings to the table is his honesty. That is what makes him special. That is what makes him different. His eloquence is not what makes him special, because he lacks it. Now, his knowledge of even Nigeria, the overall knowledge of Nigeria, and his knowledge of economic issues cannot rate him among the best. I'm just being modest. Certainly cannot rate him among the best. The president did very well when it came to ask him questions about the Chibok girls, about some other issues that he's very, very conversant with. Yes, yeah. But when it came to the economy, it was difficult for him. And at a point, when people say that, oh, they didn't really grill the man, I remember the young man who was sitting beside the woman on the president's right.
From Daily Trust.
The president even shouted at him that, what question did you ask the former administration? When he wanted to know whether if there's a resurgence in oil prices, the president would continue, would return to paying, making subsidy payments. Because the president didn't want to commit himself, he was very harsh to that fellow by saying that, did you ask the former administration that question? Of course, there will have been no need to ask the former administration that question, because the subsidy regime was in place. You have told us that from March 2016, you have no interest in further paying subsidy. So you should have answered the question. But our president didn't answer this question. Instead, he shouted at him and said, did you ask? When an interviewee throws questions back at you, it suggests clearly to you that he has no intention to answer that question. And as a journalist, we are journalists, and we are as well Nigerians. We are patriots. I don't think anybody will go to a presidential chat with the sole intention to expose our president or to show some form of disrespect to him. If it becomes clear to you on that panel that the president has no plan to answer this question, or that he lacks the tactical know-how to answer the question, as a Nigerian, if the intention is not to bring him to ridicule, you move to something else. Question. I'm sure that some of them were guided. I'm sure they were guided by that kind of reasoning. Because after he said that, the only thing the guy said was, but we want to move on as a country. Which is like saying, but the ball is in your court now. That's why we are asking you now. You are the one in government now. He said it in a very diplomatic manner. And I have no quarrel with the way he responded to being harassed like that. I've seen Obasanjo do presidential media chats. In some cases, he will even insult them on air. He will abuse them thoroughly on air. Our former deputy director news here, he was once on that hot seat with the president, and the president insulted him on air publicly. That was Obasanjo. I remember even one journalist from the UK, when he asked Obasanjo about the Odi massacre, I remember the kind of comment that he got. And the guy started fidgeting after that encounter. I mean, after Obasanjo responded harshly to him. I remember a breakfast meeting that in which Obasanjo insulted Kabiru Yusuf, the publisher of Daily Trust. He didn't stop at insulting him. He moved on to Bayo Ononuga and insulted him because they asked him a question about Ibrahim Babangida. So sometimes we must admit that sometimes these presidents don't want to answer certain questions. And they employ all kinds of tactics, sometimes intimidating you and all that. But the thing about the president is that he's extremely honest, and you will see clearly that his answers were very direct. The ones that he couldn't answer, he just refused to answer in the best way that he could do it. And for some of them, he didn't pretend. Even though, in my view, it was wrong of the president, for example, to justify continuing to keep people in detention even after the courts of the land have granted them bail. I think it was wrong of the president to say it openly that, look, that what they have done, you know, that they must remain in detention. So you are saying that you want to sustain this policy of continuing to disobey the law courts. And when you continue to disobey the law courts, you will set the judiciary against yourself. And then I also felt that his comment about the National Assembly was wrong, because you cannot talk about regulating the spending of the National Assembly because it's an independent and equal arm of government. Yes, we do not like the fact that they are wasteful, but there are other ways. What you can say is that, look, we need to sit together with these people and let them know that the Nigeria of today, the waste that is taking place in the National Assembly cannot be justified. So you can find political solutions to certain problems, not to go on here and say that, look, if I didn't allow the 47 point something billion, if I didn't allow so much money to be spent on cars, then I can't allow 47.1 billion to be spent on cars by the National Assembly. Because they could go to court and they will win.
So could this be the reasons why the PDP is saying that the media chart shows the president as a dictator?
Let the PDP go and sleep. I don't even want to talk about the response of the PDP. I know that's what they would say in the first instance, but like Jide said,
except if they are on serious opposition.
Yeah.
The media chart left a lot of gaps for the PDP to exploit. Except they don't know what they are doing.
Especially in the issue of the budget of the National Assembly. Fine, the National Assembly is an independent. We have 3 arms of government, like we all know. Yeah. But then their budget is embedded in the national budget. The president signs off on even their own budget, even that of the judiciary.
They even asked him that question. That's so what you saw.
That is it. It comes to his table. So, like, what the president should have done is call the National Assembly, the principal officers of the National Assembly. You guys, you have taken 5 million as in lieu of a vehicle.
Loan.
Allowance. Allowance. So where are you buying vehicles, 109 vehicles from? And they were very smart about it. They said they are project vehicles. How come all the senators, 109 senators, we have
looking for project
vehicles, and the Senate president alone has 11 new. And the Mercedes-Benz. Whereas he has a fleet. Look at, they should have taken a cue from the president, who said they brought a budget of 400 million for him to buy cars for the presidential fleet. And you said, what I inherited from the last regime.
They are good cars.
They are good cars.
That can still last
10 years. But then, we saw in some newspapers and others embedded in the budget a 3.6 billion fund meant for the purchase of BMW cars for the presidency. So at times you get confused. If you say they are telling us we common Nigerians to continue to tighten our belts.
Meanwhile,
But
they're
they're supposed to tighten
they are spending lavishly.
But then
And
it's
this
like
is
they are
they are expanding.
They're slacking
and
their
this is a government that intends to cut costs.
That is it. So if you are spending 3.6 billion to buy BMW cars for the presidency, you have rejected 400 million to buy. What is the difference between 400 million and 3.6 billion? And that is in the budget. So you say you are.
There's
you
no
are
way
saving,
the old man can see everything.
You are
See,
saving
a
10
lot of the
naira.
stealing. We talk about these things when we are together, when we are outside of this place. We do a lot of discussion outside of this place. See, a lot of the stealing that will take place in this administration will happen through that budget that has just been passed, because no matter how you can't see everything. You can't see everything. Some people, as Buhari is planning to block loopholes,
Especially the
to stop
budget
people
is
from
prepared
stealing.
by civil servants.
Yeah, and these civil servants.
Remember that
look,
the ministers only came in about 2 weeks before the budget was ready. So they have already imputed whatever.
I've always said it, that these civil servants, the Nigerian civil servants, the corruption, their own level of corruption is luciferous. Only Lucifer can bequeath that kind of nature on any human being.
Ingenuity.
The dexterity to steal, because they come up with all kinds of ideas. Remember, some years back, in the budget, it was discovered that a ghost school in Abuja, a ghost school,
was
complete with vice principal academic, vice principal admin, and principal. And they allocated money for it. There is no way the president can know all the unity schools in Abuja. That was a unity school.
All right.
There was no way the president, our president, can know all of that.
Quickly, we have a package on the media chat, so we'll quickly take that report, and then we'll come back to pick on the issues, major issues that were highlighted or discussed in the presidential media chat.
Mr. President, who promised to present his government scorecard in the fight against corruption by the end of March 2016, made this declaration on Wednesday during the presidential media chat. While addressing questions on the whereabouts of some girls kidnapped by terrorists in northern Nigeria, President Buhari confessed that the government was not sure if the Chibok girls were still alive. Mr. Buhari further highlighted the successes recorded so far in the war against terrorism.
I swore by the Holy Quran that I will defend the Constitution and whatever belongs to Nigerians. If anybody would appropriate such a thing, will attempt to get the documents and will prosecute them. And it's up to them to prove themselves innocent before the court. We are still keeping our option open that if a credible leadership of Boko Haram can be established and they tell us where those guys are, we are prepared to negotiate with them.
On the economy, President Buhari was clear about his conviction on the suggestion that the Naira be devalued. He lamented the poor state of the economy, especially the volume of debt to be paid. He said the situation has been worsened by the lackluster performance of the nation's petroleum industry.
The insecurity in the country, the downtime in the petroleum industry, very unfortunate developments for this government. But they are a reality of the situation which we Nigerians have to face. And then the previous budgets, you please check your records. Over 90% were overhead. Which country can develop without capital projects?
For Mr. President, who once served as Nigeria's petroleum minister, there is no point wasting further time on the removal of subsidy on petroleum since the price at the international market is already on a low side. He disclosed that the government's priority is to make sure that the refineries are working. President Buhari is worried about extravagant spending by the National Assembly, faulting the Assembly's plan to spend 4.5 billion naira on cars despite receiving transport allowance from government coffers. He added that foreign exchange will only be directed at the productive sector of the economy and not for luxury items. While reacting to the clamor of some groups to secede from Nigeria, Mr. President warned that such actions would not be taken lightly. It was President Buhari's first live media chat since he assumed office in May this year. Oba Adeoye, TVC News, Lagos.
All right, that was the report on the presidential media chat, and there were some issues raised. But before we go to the issue, we're talking behind the camera. The suggestion the PDP made, Babajide, saying that the constitution be suspended while the president just rule the country as a Muslim ruler. What do you make of that statement? Why do you think they are making such statements, really?
I think that statement is a product of frustration. They don't like Buhari's style. They don't like the fact that...
but is there anything wrong with his style of leadership?
He's a strong leader, no doubt about it. They don't want a strong leader. Let me tell you, Nigerians, only true patriots want Nigeria to have a strong leader. Most people don't want Nigeria to have a strong leader because with a strong leader, you can't get away with many things. With a strong ruler, people will not come and lobby you when people get detained, and expect that that person will be released. I was at an interactive session with the CBN governor, and he told us that the current CBN governor, and they told us, see, when we introduced these forest restrictions, that people kept coming to me, big men in Nigeria, saying, "No, relax this thing now." And I told them, look, well, if you can just go to President Buhari. President Buhari is the one who will do it. And he said, look, every time I mention Buhari, I was convinced that they will not go to him. Because how will you go and face Buhari and say, your CBN governor, look at this, why don't you just overrule him over these restrictions? Because he will chase you away. If you are not careful, he will tell them to detain you. That is the reason why, the point I'm making is that he's a strong leader, he's very firm. You can trust him on so many issues.
But that's what Nigeria needs. That's what
Nigeria needs, but it's not every Nigerian that wants. Now, are you telling me now that many people are happy that he's locking people up and that people are being detained, they get released by the courts, and he will insist that they should still be put in the slammer? So, for a long time, we've not had a leader who is firm. Whom you cannot lobby, whom you cannot leverage on your friendship with him and expect that, you will get all the big contracts and all that.
All right.
So that is the point. So they don't like his style. They prefer someone like Goodluck Jonathan that they can always go to him.
We need to take a commercial break, but we will be signing off the entertainment platform. But remember, the show continues on TVC Nigeria. That's on DSTV. You can just switch onto the channel and you can continue with us and also contribute. Thanks for staying with us. It's still Journalist Hangout, and we're still discussing, or rather dissecting, the media chat that held yesterday at the presidential villa. Now let's look at issues that were raised, especially that of corruption, where the president is saying that if he finds any member of his cabinet to be corrupt, he is going to prosecute them and as well sack them. Gideon, you're smiling, but let me start with Mujid. What do you make of the president's statement, looking at the situation on ground as well?
I see that as a political statement. Because I know that somebody specifically asked that question. Seems as if it's only members of the opposition party that have been tried for corruption and related issues. But then it's neither here nor there, but the president was very smart, very diplomatic in answering. He said none of those ministers had any issue
relating to corruption
in any courts. That if you have any evidence that there's a court proceeding against any of the ministers, whether in the court or the EFCC or ICPC, they should bring it forward. That even going forward, if he finds any of them guilty of corrupt practices, he will not only be sacked, but also prosecuted. So he was very diplomatic. But then, I mean, we've had instances where one or two of the ministerial nominees have had questions, I mean, to answer on issues, especially those who are former governors. But I think it's neither here nor there. Nobody, I mean, even those who were invited by the EFCC were later, I mean, given a clean bill of health. So as long as we are given a clean bill of health by the EFCC, I think the president is at liberty to make you a minister. And don't also forget that all of them went through security screening.
Yep.
And through several agencies, the SSS, police, EFCC, and what have you. So,
with classified documents. because we never get to see those things.
So the president knows what he's saying.
He has those report of the screening.
If the president has asked that he desires to make Veronica so and so, you know, I mean, taking into consideration the peculiarity and particularity of our environment, of our political environment, it stands like a fait accompli. So the screenings that Mujid is talking about, fine, they were carried out, but we don't know what they saw and they've been appointed. But for me, I think that the war on corruption will be better fought when we bring to the mainstream one of the fundamental tenets of democracy, which is institution building. You know, Jude was talking about strong leadership. It is important because it takes strong men to build strong states, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But you see, I wish that by the March timeline that he was talking about yesterday, that by March next year we would have seen substantial traction in the war on corruption. Mm-hmm. I wish that by now, you know, if the president says that, look, the EFC inherited and ICPC inherited, we're not as effective as I would have loved them to be. Therefore, I want to drive the process for a while before, because there is no future for anyone on corruption without independent institutions. As far as the EFCC and the ICPC are tied to the apron strings of the president under the Ministry of Justice, you know, I mean, when you control a process, if you know what I'm talking, once somebody is controlling a process.
We have a caller.
Okay.
We need to quickly take that call. Abacha from Niger State, go on with your contribution.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Abacha.
Yes.
Seriki.
I would like you guys are doing a very good job.
Sugarban Kasa.
Cyril Abakum and MG.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes. I think for the first time, I want to disagree with Babajide. I think if you listen to what the president said concerning the 400 million naira budget, not of the Senate, he said he's going to have a roundtable discussion with them to analyze that. And talking about...
Okay, we lost that call. I hope you can reconnect and then, you know, contribute more on that, what you were trying to say.
I hope, you see, sometimes when our callers don't really understand exactly what we are saying. The point is, nobody is against getting the National Assembly to reduce their humongous budget
on vehicles.
On vehicles and other things. But the point I'm making is that on a public forum, like the president used yesterday, you don't say that you will not allow. You understand? That you will not allow, because those were his words. He said, if I rejected 400 million so for this. I will not allow the National Assembly to go ahead and spend 47.5 billion on cars. It has no power to stop them, to regulate their spending. That's why I'm saying it has to be something that they will sit down and talk about. After all, they belong to the same party. You say, look, in the spirit of this time that we are facing, I mean, these economic problems that we are facing, let us not spend money in this manner. And I think an agreement can be reached.
All
but
right,
an independent, for an independent arm of government, you can't be banging your fist.
All right, we have Aliyu on the line. Aliyu from Niger State. Go ahead with your call. Rather.
Hello, this is Ali.
Go ahead.
Good evening.
Ali?
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes, my contribution based on the issue and also the media chat the president they had yesterday. So based on Babajide, I disagree with him. The reason why I disagree with him is that the president said vividly that he is going to sit with the National Assembly and they are going to discuss the issue based on that amount of money. So secondly, I want to ask all of you also, please, based on those questions given to our president yesterday, you see, everybody is good in his own field of knowledge. And from all indications, he's a military man and also a politician.
Yes.
He's not an economist or an accountant. That you can just start bombarding him, that his ATM is not working and something like that. Those questions should be answered by the Minister of Economy or the Governor of Central Bank. And he did well yesterday. For me, if I'm going to rate him as the President of Nigeria, I'm going to give him 95% because he has tried yesterday. And secondly, all of you, nobody even talks about those people, the armed deal, that is the 2.1 billion armed deal. That is the nobody even discussed the issue. Look at it, discuss about the infrastructure, the pipeline, the bad state of Nigeria road, everything he said the past president, they did not do anything. Nobody discussed about those issues. And also look at our Nigerian military that went on the war front with these terrorists without no arms, no gun, no weapon. Some of them were killed. Nobody even discussed about that. And again, they said they ran away and they charged them for mutinying and other things.
Aliyu, thanks for your contribution. Thank you.
They don't, maybe sometimes they miss. When we criticize the president, because we have a right to criticize the president, we want Nigeria to be better. It's important that our viewers understand. We have equal stake in the project called Nigeria. But what we are saying is, the president, yes, he said later on that, oh, he's going to meet with them. But the point is, he shouldn't have said, look, I'm not going to allow it. Because if you are saying you are not going to allow it, then the people who are going to have a meeting with you, they can actually stiffen their positions.
Yeah.
Because they believe that you have already made up your own mind. You've stiffened your position already. So it is the diplomacy. Politicians have better diplomacy. They have better diplomacy than soldiers. So I can excuse the president that he lacks that diplomacy. Maybe as he goes on, it will get better, it will be more diplomatic. So that sometimes even his intentions, he doesn't expose his intentions publicly before he goes to work. Because when you do that, the person for which that course of action is intended can actually frustrate your moves.
Cyril, you wanted to say something?
Well, just to buttress what we were saying, that by the psychology of language, you can tell what a person's state of mind is when he says, I will not allow, you know, but away
what's the essence of the meeting again?
You know,
if you made up your mind that you will not allow.
There's no need for a meeting.
And particularly when you don't have constitutional means of achieving what you said, then, I mean, it's going to be, you know, like a
we'll take you to court.
Yes, but
lose.
The point I was making earlier was the fact that if we want to prosecute a right war on corruption, you know, when we say that the nation is broke and all of that, people have taken trillions out of this economy in sectors that have been hitherto marked as being untapped. Look at illegal miners, for instance. They've taken more than 8 trillion naira in the past 2 years alone. I'm saying that, you know, yes, a war on corruption must be fought. But for how long are we going to...
That's why somebody suggested that legal mining, mining should be legalized.
Yes, so you know,
the ministerial screening.
Which is why we are saying that, once there are apron strings on the foot soldiers fighting the war on corruption, they will always take the directions of those who are sitting in unseen quarters, which is why we see court orders being flouted, which is why, you know, we hear often that the war is selective. But where we have agencies that are actually independent and can carry out the, you know, I expected this war to have an ideological leaning. EFCC, ICPC, are we going to be merging them in the next 1 year?
No, he said he's okay with the structure.
If he's okay with them, then they should become independent, so that corruption can be fought on its merit.
Name, independent.
In
features
name.
In the name.
But it's not.
In name. And they were there before EFCC came up with better funding, you know, and then overshadowed them. So what we are saying is, when these agencies become independent, they can prosecute the war on corruption, based on merit, if you know what I'm talking about, because people have taken the money from these countries, we don't know them, and we keep on hearing that this is just a tip of the iceberg. I think they should be empowered to carry out investigations and to set straight the prosecutorial process, so that it doesn't have to be with the president said today, the president has ordered that there are some things that ought to be left.
All right, let's move on to another issue that was raised, and that has to do with the whereabouts of the Chibok girls, where the president says he has no concrete intelligence, based on intelligence on the whereabouts of the girls, but that he is open to discussion with the Boko Haram sect if there is a credible leadership. What do you make of this, having a discussion with them to, you know, recover the girls, looking at the fact that the mayhem these people have caused on many northeastern states?
Yes, I think the president was quite diplomatic and presidential there in tackling the Chibok girls issue. You see, one single soul is as important to any president as you have.
209.
Yeah, now talking of 209 or 219. So now, when this issue happened, or when it started in 2014, I think the former administration, even for about 18 days, they never even believed the Chibok girls were missing.
Yep.
So it gave the Boko Haram enough time to actually dismantle and do whatever they want with these girls. So as time passed by, it gets more difficult to actually trace those ladies. So that's why the president had no choice than to say that, fine, if there is a genuine and concrete evidence that these Chibok girls are still somewhere. And even it went to the extent, that's why the father is a Muslim, it went to the extent that, if it takes banning of hijab,
it took a while for him to answer that question.
Yes, but then he said it. He said even if it takes banning of hijab,
he said if the bombings don't
continues,
stop, it may go to that. So it means it's already considering
he wants a solution.
He wants a solution.
He wants an outright solution.
Because now we made mention of the fact that now they use girls, the 10-year-old girls in
Sorry, quickly, we have a caller, Vincent from Anambra. Go ahead with your contribution, Vincent. Vincent, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead with your contribution.
Gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I want to recall you on the corruption issue and the recovery made by our president so far. There is no human face in this recovery. One, he has tried to tell the Nigerians how much of that has been recovered, and we need to know the impact of this recovery to the public. Even when the past government were fully corrupt, because the money was circulating, people were stealing it. But this one, we are not stealing the recovery. There's no impact to the public. The public are not stealing the recovery so far being made. And who are those responsible for all this news? We need to know. All these things will give us a kind of progress So this is what I want to hear. Thank you, because people are doing a marvelous job there. It's very, very educative. Especially the commander and the other man on top and the other one, the academic. I like the way you fly.
Thank you.
Thank you. They're already giving you guys
senior assistant.
Sometimes this is embarrassing, actually.
And I think what he's trying to say is that, but then the president will sound prejudiced if I mean, because some of these processes are still ongoing.
Yes,
but,
like he said that.
He said that by the end of the first quarter, which we are talking about, March or April now, he will give us details, because some of these recoveries are still going on.
Yes, he said it takes a long process.
That is it.
And he was calling on the countries for assistance.
It can be very difficult.
Yeah,
so
we had to look at the negotiation that went into recovery of the Abacha loot. Nigeria had to concede about $2 billion or so to the Abacha family.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because the case was going on. We will win, but we will spend so much money, and it will take years.
Yeah, he actually said that yesterday, that it's going to take years, but
so
that's why he's actually calling on Nigerians to be patient.
That is it.
We have to quickly negotiate.
I'm sure there are lots of expectations for 2016 with the fact that the president said that Nigerians will be informed about the ongoings of the government, especially with tackling corruptions and this monies that is being recovered. But then, what are your expectations generally? Looking at the fact that the president says, come 2016, he's coming out with a certain report with regards to all of this that Nigerians are asking.
You see, I think we just need to exercise some patience. Like Jide said, Abacha loot, when Abacha died, when? I think 1998.
June 8th.
And almost 20 years later, we are still recovering Abacha loot. I mean, the money is still coming in trickles. So imagine those who just left yesterday, so to say, quote and unquote. So and that's why the president, I mean, I don't think he was sounding dictatorial when he said, if you know how much is involved in the Dasuki Gate, then you wouldn't just allow the guy to go like that. Right then,
it's not murder that I committed.
No, but he didn't commit murder. But then, you see, this thing is like treason. It's like treason. No, it is law.
But looking at it's not treason.
But he was released, but he arrested for further investigation.
What is the jail term for stealing? Just about 7 years.
In Singapore, they had to suspend their constitution.
And then let's do that. Let's not go against the constitution.
Yes.
Let's do that. You are echoing the
How did the Singapore rise from
there is a message that you send across when you don't obey the law courts. There is a message that you send across.
They didn't stop his...
All right, gentlemen, we are running out of time.
Because he will still go back to court and they will grant him bail again. So you continue to arrest him.
In the spirit of talking about the courts just upturned the verdict of that Aisha Al-Hassan has lost or did not win. She's not the appeal. Yeah. Now, what do you make of this decision or the verdict?
Well, it was very clear. The judgment of the appeal court is very clear that, look, the matter of PDP taking its primaries to Abuja was a pre-election matter. So you do not go to the tribunal to pursue a pre-election matter. And the court also affirmed that it shouldn't have been the APC that would take that matter before a tribunal or before a court, because they didn't take part in the primaries. It's like you and I went into a contest and I was cheated. I have a right to go to court to say, look, I was unfairly treated. I was cheated. Now, if you did not suffer any kind of injury, how do you now go and try to benefit from something that has to do with the primaries of the PDP? So if it was someone from the PDP that actually went to court, chances are that the matter will have been resolved in favor of that person. But the court is saying, no, the APC cannot benefit from that matter that is just related to the PDP, that the person who can challenge that challenged Darius's nomination would be someone who took part in the primaries. And you know, this issue, when they were claimed that, oh, the security problem was the reason why they went to Abuja, if you took them to court on that matter, what are you going to say about the fact that some Akwa Ibom, Rivers, and Taraba, the tribunals are sitting in Abuja? So if it was wrong to go and do primaries in Abuja for security reasons, will it now be right for tribunals in that ought to have sat in Akwa Ibom, Rivers, and Taraba to sit in Abuja? So these are some of the issues.
I think it is 1-1 now, and there are three points to be scored. The case is still going to appeal.
Going to Supreme Court.
Sorry, to Supreme Court. What the appellate court is trying to say is that Jumai cannot use Panadol for Darius Ishaku's headache. That it won't work for her. But then the election proper held in Taraba. It didn't hold anywhere else. So that even the PDP said it then that they were okay with the primary. There was a primary that was conducted in Taraba. They took another one to Abuja. That was the grouse. So we'll need to wait for the appeal court. For the Supreme Court to take a final decision on this matter. So, to me, I believe
the reality is that the INEC supervised the primaries that
held in
yes.
Abuja.
The INEC went and gave him the go-ahead to take part in the election. So if the INEC didn't sanction the primaries, would INEC have given him the go-ahead to take part in the election? So this is, Faleke wanted to go to regular court over.
They told him,
they told him, look, this is an election matter. You don't take an election matter before a regular court. So by the same token, you don't take a pre-election matter before a tribunal. So it was wrong of them to have done that, and that is what the courts have established. In the other matter, the matter of the election, the same tribunal, the lower tribunal, ruled that Juma Alhassan lost the election. The only prayer that he sought that was granted was the fact that the man was not validly nominated. So, and what the Supreme Court usually does, because they don't have all the time that the tribunal and the other courts have, is that they look at what transpired in the lower court. So, right now, in my view, it's going to be difficult for Jumai to win at the level of the Supreme Court, given what transpired, given a lot of what we have read. So I believe that she should just hold on to her ministerial position and let Darius be. When mistakes are made in legal terms, it is extremely difficult. Especially with those Supreme judges, it's extremely difficult to expect that they will right the wrongs for you. So it's very clear.
We expect
and if I said that I did not expect the judge to go this way, honestly, I'll be lying. And there are people here that we have discussed this before, and I accurately predicted this to them, that this is what will happen.
I completely agree, because for the lack of local standing, it is difficult for you to substantiate your claim to substantial personal injury. And again, I don't foresee any of the people that took part in the primaries with Darius, for instance, going to court.
They've been settled.
Because no, because you took part in the process without complaining first, and after it without process.
It's even too late for those ones to come up now.
So
look at what there was really the judgment, and the judgment clearly says that the manner in which somebody gets nominated cannot be a ground for disqualification after he won an election. So it should have been addressed.
Just earlier.
The same thing happened to the case of Fayoshe in Ekiti, when the Supreme Court gave him the victory. Said, the manner of his nomination was a pre-election matter, but then the courts were shut down. So they didn't even allow the pre-election matter to hold. So I want to believe it's the same scenario that played out in at the appellate court in the Aisha Azan situation. So let's see what the Supreme Court will do. I doubt if the Supreme Court will deviate from what...
just like Wike, who has gone to the Supreme Court. Wike is just wasting his time. Because there's no way that the Supreme Court will validate his election, given the violence that people saw across the...
And especially with the 3 senatorial seats gone, 25 out of the 32 assembly members gone, and almost all the rep members gone.
Except one.
Just one.
Gentlemen, many thanks for coming on the show, because that's the much we can take on the show today. Babajide, thanks for coming. Cyril, thanks for coming. Majid, thanks for coming. And it seems exciting that I went and came back to a new set. Yes. Cups of water.
The dark set. You are wearing black.
And hanging out.
Yes, we're hanging out, really. Well, that's all on Journalists Hangout today. Join us tomorrow for a fresh episode. That's the special episode. But you can watch a repeat broadcast of the program today at 11 p.m. and on TVC Entertainment at 5 in the morning. Once again, I'd like to invite you to the special edition of Journalists Hangout this Friday. That's the 1st of January 2016 at 4 p.m. Let's review the year 2015 and predict things to come in the new year. Call our producers on 080-354-37765 and 070-435-54356 to book a sit. I am Veronica Onuchi. Bye for now and see you next year.